Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, I want to replay for you one of the first It's the Bread story I ever shared on Sue's Healthy Minutes. In fact, it goes all the way back to episode 14. Janet Caraway's story is one that actually inspired me to start asking guests on the podcast to share their health improvements since beginning the journey of real bread made from freshly ground whole grains. I hadn't seen Janet in more than a year, but happened to have a wonderful opportunity to speak with her briefly just this week at the Bread Becker store. It was a privilege to reconnect as she shared how God had provided for her over the past year of her life. Though we didn't speak of her real bread story, just seeing her reminded me of it and how encouraging it was to me in my early days of the beginnings of Sue's Healthy Minutes. So I thought, why not share her story again with you all? I know we have many new listeners who may not have heard it, but even if you have heard it before, I know I never get tired of hearing a great testimony again and again. So I hope you will be encouraged today as you listen, and may God give you the wisdom and answers that you need from Him today. I'm especially excited about today's episode because it's testimony time, and I always get excited when someone shares their It's the Bread story. It always encourages me to hear these stories, but I know it will encourage you as well. My guest today on Sue's Healthy Minutes is my new friend, Janet Caraway. I spoke with Janet briefly over the phone just a few weeks ago when she called Bread Beckers about ordering wheat. And I happened to answer the phone that day, which I would call a divine appointment, as I rarely answer the phone at Bread Beckers. After I answered her questions, Janet began to tell me briefly of her story of healing, and in just a few short minutes, I knew it was a story that needed to be shared. Janet found relief from a pretty significant and painful health issue that many doctors say is untreatable. And I think that was just the beginning. I've not heard all of Janet's story, so you're going to hear it right along with me today. And I just want to now introduce you to my friend, my new friend, Janet Caraway, and let you hear her story. So Janet, welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes, and thank you for your willingness to come and share. It's such a pleasure to hear your story today. I'm just so excited about it. And so first, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you came to hear about Bread Beckers or whatever you want to share to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share. I have been asking the Lord to let me be able to help others through what He has led me through. And once you come to the other side, it feels pretty good. I'm a wife and mom. I've been married. I forgot now. I've got to look. 36 years, a long time. Wow. We have 3 grown sons, 3 beautiful daughters in love, 2 grandbabies, and 1 on the way. So
wow,
we're very excited and
very blessed.
Yes, very, very blessed. Moved to Georgia 3 times in our lifetime, originally from the West Coast. And we've been here. This is home. This is home, and it's a good place. I originally heard about Bread Beckers in the early 2000s. Our pastor's wife was one of your co-op members. And I lived about an hour south of the Atlanta airport, and being new to the area, I had no idea I could have actually just driven up to the store.
Some people don't know that we have a retail store. Yeah.
So, and I wasn't able to do the co-op with her, but I did learn about you way back then and was very excited when we moved back to Georgia this time that I was within driving distance again to your store.
That's so exciting that you live close now.
Yes, very close.
Yes.
So I can get to your store in 30 minutes, and it's wonderful.
That is great.
Yeah.
So what started you on your journey looking at healthy eating, healthy living? Where did it begin?
It actually began with our second boy.
Mm-hmm.
He was just getting off breastfeeding, and he was very hungry and all of that. So we had put him on cow's milk from the refrigerator. He's now 30 years old, so it's a long time ago. He kept getting ear infections over and over and over again, and he kept being put on antibiotics. And the doctor wanted to put tubes, and I said, no, there's got to be a cause. What is the cause? And he just wanted to treat the symptoms. So back in those days, you had to go to the library and look up things.
Yes.
So I found out that about 90% of ear infections are caused from an allergy. So we took him off cow's milk and put him back on baby formula. Ear infections stopped. Put him back on the cow's milk from the refrigerator. The ear infections started again. Took him off, put him on a powdered milk that was enriched, and no ear infections. And today he's fine. He can drink milk with no problem. But when he was a little boy, he had an allergy that was causing those infections. So I'm really thankful for that. And that got me started into the natural health, natural healing realm. And I've been studying on my own ever since. And then when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, it was probably close to 20 years ago. I was in a place 13 years ago that I just wanted to see my youngest son graduate high school, and I wanted to go home and be with Jesus.
Oh.
I was in horrific pain all the time. It was hard to walk up and down the stairs. My hair was falling out. I couldn't sleep. I have a whole list of symptoms here. I had chronic inflammation with that. I was bronchitis 4 to 6 times a year on antibiotics and steroids. It was just really, really hard. I was taking ibuprofen like it was candy. I was eating 3 of them every 4 to 6 hours just to get through the day.
Yes. The pain, from what I understand, is very debilitating.
It was.
And I think it's so painful, and doctors pretty much say there's no treatment for it. Is that correct?
They'll give you drugs to mask it, but I could not get one to help me find the root cause.
Right.
And so I started researching, and what I found was my gut health was in such poor shape.
Yes.
From all the years of antibiotics and steroids, from all the diet drinks, from all the diet everything, and eating conventional foods.
Yeah.
And so my journey was a little backwards from yours. I started in with the reading the labels and going at it that way. So I started cutting out things, and I was to the point where I was eating almost 100% organic and juicing, but I was still sick.
Yeah.
And so I found a probiotic that worked for me, and it was a freeze-dried probiotic, and it made all the difference in the world.
Yes.
And within just a few weeks, I started feeling good again, and I had a zest for life again, and it was just like God gave me this miracle.
Yes.
And
it's almost miraculous. As a food microbiologist, I've been teaching about gut health since the beginning, long before it was as popular as it is now.
Yes.
But I don't think we realize what a huge connection those good gut organisms are to our overall health, our sleep, our moods, our peace of mind. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's amazing that was your kind of starting place.
Yes. So mine I figured out and learned about gut health and my microbiome and how important it is to feed it.
Yes.
And to feed it properly, but also to remove those things, because the candida in there, they will crave those things that turn to sugar really fast, because that's what they feed on. So when you can get that out of your system, then inflammation starts going down. And one of those inflammation markers is called C-reactive protein.
Yes.
My C-reactive protein was off the charts. It was very, very high for many years. And so my annual checkup, we would always measure that. And my C-reactive protein is now in the normal range. Osteopenia is gone. I had osteopenia. My last bone scan was 4 years ago, and they called me and they told me, you don't need to come back for 5 years for a bone scan.
That's amazing.
When you're in your late 50s and they tell you that, that's a wonderful thing.
That's a wonderful blessing and a wonderful testimony.
So, and then I just kept progressing from there. And then when we got here and I could drive to Bread Becker's, I went and I didn't tell my husband how much that grain mill was. I got the grain mill, and he is reaping the benefits of that now too. We are making the bread, and some things I've noticed just in the 2.5 months I've been using this, the magnesium I've been taking, I've had to reduce it by half.
Wow, that is so great. Yes. That's one thing a lot of people don't realize. The grains are super high in the minerals. Though they're in the carbohydrate family, there's lots of proteins there. Yes. There's just enzymes. It's just like I say all the time, grains are the most nutrient dense food that God has given us.
They are.
And I'm kind of laughing a little bit because I just finished the series, My 7 Steps to Healthy Living, but I'm not sure if I prefaced it. They don't have to be done in that order. Those were just the 7 things that I saw kind of all encompassing to being healthy. Not that I don't discuss eating meat and things like that because that's up to you, but just the main things. But gut health doesn't have to be. It's step number 3 in my 7 steps, but it certainly doesn't have to be. You can do what I love about them is you can jump in and do all of them at once. And that sounds kind of like what you started eating real food, real fresh fruits and vegetables, got your gut health, probably drinking lots of water.
Yes, lots of spring water, but not the tap water.
Right. So, yeah. And then found out about the bread. Did you hear a teaching on it or someone just shared about it and you researched, or how did you find out about the bread?
I've been making bread off and on for years, but I actually watched you on YouTube because my friend had told me about you all those years ago, and you did that teaching on It's the Bread. Yeah. And I loved that you put the science behind what you were saying, because that to me is very, very important. And you gave me the why. You gave me the why, and everybody needs to know that why. So I got it, brought it home, started using it. Now, I don't eat a lot of bread, 1 or 2 slices a day, and that's it. But I've already seen health benefits just from those 1 or 2 slices.
Wow. Even just adding the bread to what you were already, doing some eating pretty clean. Yes. And so that's what I think is always exciting to see, because that was kind of my story too. We were pretty clean eaters. I wouldn't say perfect, but not even today, but we ate real food, real fruit, real vegetables. Yes. We weren't junky. We didn't have sodas in the house and candy and that kind of stuff. But I was amazed by adding the real bread made from freshly milled flour. Yes. The difference that I saw in our health, even though we were already pretty clean. So you started making bread. I did. And so tell me some of the first things. Now, had your fibromyalgia symptoms already stopped?
Yep.
Yes.
Those have been gone.
So those have been gone.
Those have been gone for about 9 years from getting that gut health back, but I still try to maintain, and I still have a health journey to finish. I'm not done. Yeah. And so I want to reach the best health I can, to be there for my husband, my children, and my grandbabies. Yeah. So some of the things that's happened is my appetite's reduced. Since the bread. Now we're talking about what the bread has done. Yeah. When I eat the bread, my hands don't swell up.
That's amazing.
There's the fluid retention that I would get from eating even bread I made. And I was buying very expensive sprouted
flour,
whole wheat flour. Yeah. Yes, it was $10, $12. It was very expensive for a 5-pound bag.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was making it with all organic ingredients, but I would still swell up and I would get hungry. I'd still want more bread. So what I found, getting the gut health, if it's kind of getting out of check. So you start getting those cravings again for those carbs. So you need to address the gut health again and get back onto it. So I also have a wart story.
We like wart stories.
I've had a wart on the back of my heel. I can't tell you how long it's been there. It's been there that long. Yeah. I tried all the little drops and everything, and I was just like, okay, Lord, it's just going to be there. I'm going to live with it. It's shrinking.
Wow.
So it's not gone yet, but it is shrinking. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. And you say you've been making your own bread from freshly milled flour for
about 2 months.
About 2 months. That is amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't eat a lot of muffins or cookies or pancakes or anything like that. So I'm not eating an enormous amount of that. But what I am is making a difference.
Yes. Yes.
And my husband is loving it. And so my little granddaughter, oh my gosh, we made it together the other day. We milled the flour and she got up there. She's 2 and she had the most fun. She'd stick her hand in the grain and then in the warm flour and she helped me make the bread. And
it is. The bread is more than just satisfying to eat. It's very satisfying. There's something peaceful about even just making it and milling the flour. And I'll find myself just running my hands through the wheat before I even grind it, and then just feeling the flour, and then the dough. I play with the dough. It's there's something very, very calming about the whole thing. And then very, like I said, very satisfying knowing that you are making and preparing and then eating one of the most nutritious foods that God's given us. It's just, and that was, being satisfied was one of the first things I noticed is that my kids weren't snacking because they would eat and they were no longer hungry. And the same with me. And I also noticed, and maybe those cravings for carbs just weren't there because I was getting the real carbs from the real bread.
You're getting the nutrients and you're not trying to fill it with empty things. So, and it's a good feeling. I wish I had known about this when my boys were little.
I know.
And I could have started way back then. And I dabbled with my Vitamix and the einkorn flour. But that's a learning curve a little bit to bake with the einkorn.
Yes, it is.
The liquids are a little different. So being a mom of 3 busy boys, I just kind of set that aside and went back. But I was buying organic bread from the store too for $5 a loaf, and it was doing nothing except taking money out of my wallet.
Yep, and that's what a lot of people go, well, can't I just buy it from the store? And I'm like, it's not the same. No, it's just not the same. Commercially processed flour and bread is not the same as making it yourself. No, I always laugh and tell people I have a loaf of bread. It's very expensive loaf of 100% whole grain bread that I buy whenever I teach my 7 steps to healthy living, and I use it as a visual aid and to show people. I haven't taught the class in 3 years now. The loaf of bread that I bought the last time is still on my shelf. It hasn't molded. Yeah. So that's been 3 years. I know that my bread that I make would be completely molded. And it's funny because when I bought this loaf, I was replacing the loaf that I had on the shelf for years before that. And I would just use it every year in my healthy eating simplified class. And so I went back one year to get it out, to use it. It had not molded, but it had disintegrated. Oh my. It was like powder. It was like sawdust. It was very strange. So it is not at all the same. So your husband enjoys the bread. Your family enjoys the bread.
Enjoys the bread. And I make it. I have an old bread machine. I don't even know what brand it is. And I use that on the dough cycle, and that's what I make my bread in. Yeah. I just put it in there. It's a lot easier for me. It saves me time. Yep. I went and got 2 1-pound loaf pans from your store, and they were the most awesome pans. Yes. And so I make the 2-pound in the dough cycle, take it out, form and shape the bread, let it rise. I sprinkle a little bit of oil on the top before I cover it for it to rise, and then bake it. And when it comes out, I do what my grandmother taught me when she taught me to make bread all those years ago, because she raised me. And I wrap it in a dish towel, a clean dish towel, when it comes out of the pan. And that bread is so soft and so moist. And everybody just absolutely loves it. They're not used to homemade bread being soft like you would buy in the store. Yes, yes. Well, that's a new trick that I'm going to have to try. Well, another thing, you pointed out that your husband's loving it, even though you didn't tell him how much it cost. But, the cost is relative. Yes. Because
you are no longer having to buy medication.
Exactly.
And,
I'm not at the doctor all the time.
Right.
When you get your gut health, and it's a step-by-step process,
Right.
and it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
But the money you save by not going to the doctor, by not buying over-the-counter medications, by being able to be productive and active in life and doing things for yourself instead of hiring them out,
Yes.
you save a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he likes it so much that he took me back to the store, and I got the hand grinder in case the power goes
Oh,
out. So.
Yep. Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
And that's another thing too. So, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have the money to do this, but I'm like, wow, it's amazing the money that you save. In my family, it was the kids ate much less. So that was, even my grocery bill was a savings, but no more ear infections and doctor visits and just medicine. And I tell people, I will buy a little bottle of, ibuprofen or whatever. And, it expires before we ever use it. And I'm like, because we never really need it, but I have it there just in case, but it's just really exciting.
Well, God put things on this earth to heal our bodies.
Yes, he did.
And part of that is our food.
Yes, it is.
And part of it is how we treat our bodies. And we have to do the whole process.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I love so much is it was healthy food my whole family loved.
Yes.
From my little ones, my babies, to my husband, and now my grandkids, like you.
Yes.
And so even if it's a cookie that's made from freshly ground whole grain, you know that's as healthy as the slice of bread. So,
well, I made banana muffins the other day, and my husband usually doesn't eat them, and he really likes these ones.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Very good.
With the freshly milled flour.
Yeah. And that's, you sound like me. Before I started milling and making my own flour, the flour that you buy in the store never gives you the soft bread and muffins because they've taken some of the oils out and the bran and germ out. So it's very dry and gritty. And I laugh and tell the story on myself when I found out about, milling and what was done to flour. I thought, we're doing this, I'm going to start milling my own grain and making my own bread, and this is what we're going to eat. But I thought it was going to be like that store-bought whole wheat flour that I had tried to use because I knew it was healthier, but it was terrible. The bread was terrible. And I remember I was like, well, we're doing this. And if we have to choke this bread down, we're going to eat it, because that's what I thought it was going to be like. So it was so exciting to me to make that soft loaf of bread and soft muffin and pancakes and cakes. I even made my daughter's wedding cakes, and people came up and said it was the best cake they had ever eaten. So it's really exciting.
Yes.
So.
It makes a difference to have that fresh. It's a different texture, and it's just a wonderful thing. And, they talk about the crumb in the bread. The crumb is beautiful.
It's velvety.
Oh my gosh. It's just gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah. It is.
So,
and you sound like you're a busy mom. You're a busy lady. You've got a lot of projects going on. And husband and children and now grandchildren.
Yes.
But you make time for this.
I do.
And it doesn't take a lot of time.
It doesn't take a lot of time. I can put that bread on, and I get all the ingredients in the bread machine, and I mill the flour, the very last thing.
Yeah.
And then I put that in there, and then I put that on the dough cycle and walk away and do something else.
Yeah. Which is 5 minutes. Yeah. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, maybe
10.
5 minutes 5 to 10 of prep and cleanup.
Yeah.
And then you take it out, form the loaves, and that's another maybe 5 minutes at the most. And then you bake it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So I make 2 loaves at a time, because most of the time there's just 2 of us at home. So I'll stick one in the freezer and keep one on the counter. And that's,
Yeah. Now, I noticed a lot of energy when I started. Just my energy levels were up from getting those good carbohydrates. Did you notice that as well?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I'm sleeping better. So I don't need a lot of sleep, but I'm sleeping better.
Yes.
And that's a good thing.
Yes. Now, you did mention when I spoke with you that day on the phone that you did not give up dairy.
No.
And you did not give up grains.
No.
But you were pretty particular about going organic.
Yes.
Address that a little bit. And you found that helped your fibromyalgia, because so many health circles. They're like, get off wheat and get off dairy. And I just want you to mention that.
I don't believe in getting off any food group.
Yeah. Good.
Because God made the food. So I eat clean according to God's word. So that's what I do. I was having some issues every time I would have dairy. They wanted to take my gallbladder out.
Oh, yeah.
And so I, again, did some research and found out that dairy can affect it, but it's the hormones and the antibiotics in the conventional dairy because it's super concentrated. So I switched to organic. No more gallbladder issues at all.
Wow.
Completely gone. My gallbladder's fine. I drink milk. I have some ice cream sometimes. Cheese. I love cheese.
Who doesn't? Well, some people don't love cheese, but we couldn't survive, I don't think, in our household without. We're Beckers. We love cheese.
And I have a yogurt maker that I bought from you. I have a pasta machine that I got, and so I'm excited to start getting rid of some of the things I've had on the shelf.
Yes.
I feel bad because there's stuff sitting on my shelf I'm not going to use now, but it just feels good to use real things to get back to the way they used to be.
Yeah. So when you say you eat dairy and you eat cheese, so you're pretty particular about going with organic.
I am.
But just from the regular grocery store.
Right at the regular grocery store. And if I can't find the organic milk, I'm very particular. It has to be organic.
Yeah.
There's a restaurant I go to sometimes that makes a really good milkshake. But that's not organic. So if I have that milkshake,
you can feel it.
I can feel it in my stomach right away. My gallbladder acts up because it's not organic.
Yeah.
So, but the cheese, I just make sure it is the hormone-free cheese if I cannot find the organic cheese. But no, I shop at Publix. I shop at Aldi. I shop at the
Kroger or the warehouses.
Warehouses, I just shop at the grocery store for the most part.
And thankfully, more and more of them, I mean, even the warehouse stores, they have lines of organic.
They do.
And it's really good. And I've said for years, people ask me a lot about dairy and what I do for that. I'm pretty particular about my dairy being organic, particularly the high fat ones, the cream, the butter, because toxins are stored in the fat. So if I can't do organic some places with my dairy products, I'm very particular about the cream and the butter for sure.
The cream and the butter are very important.
Yeah,
and they taste so good.
They do. Yeah, and I do full fat. Do you,
I do. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Because there was a health issue in my family, and what we discovered with triglycerides, the dairy that's the low fat turns to sugar really fast.
Yes.
So that's what raises triglycerides up. And so to keep those down, we switched to the whole milk.
The full fat?
Yes, the full fat. So we use heavy cream. If I make an Alfredo sauce, it's with heavy cream. There's no low fat anything in it.
Yeah.
And we use the real cheese. I will grate the Parmesan cheese. But that low fat, if you go back and look in the dairy industry, they actually started selling the low fat because it was a byproduct of the cream and the butter that they had the leftovers. So that became a big craze, and I didn't know back in the day. I used to drink non-fat milk, and it was like drinking colored water.
I know.
So I God has really put it on my heart to eat normal. Don't follow any of these fad diets. To eat when I'm hungry and not eat when I'm not. If I want a snack, do it as healthy as possible, and just to enjoy the things that He put on this earth.
Yeah, I think that's just so powerful, and it's so simple. I know a few years ago I was reading my Bible, and the scripture in Matthew where it says, don't worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to drink or what you're going to wear. And I remember going, Lord, is that what I'm doing? Worrying about what I'm going to eat or drink? And He was like, no. The ones that are worrying is how many carbs are in this? How much fat is in this? Is this gluten-free? Is this? Is this? Instead of, you don't have to do that if you're eating real food. And I laugh and say all the time, there's no nutrition labels, fat labels, carbohydrate labels on fruits and vegetables, meat. And, if you stay out there, if it's real, you know what you're getting.
And if you get that fat in your body and the real food in your body, including the real bread and real butter, you don't eat as much.
Right.
The satiety level, it's very quick and you don't eat as much, but you get all of those satisfactions of having that really tasty meal.
Yeah.
So
And the fad diets and all of that, they come and go, first of all.
They do.
And people go, oh, but I feel so much better at this. Most of the time, the reason people do feel better, it's very restrictive on what not to eat. And it's typically junk.
Yes.
But most of them are not sustainable.
No.
And the ones right now are quite concerning to me.
Yes, they are. Me too.
It's just when you leave out major food groups, especially ones like grains, that's very concerning because should be the foundation. And we know that. Jesus compared himself to bread for a reason.
He's the bread of life. Yes. And he ate bread.
Yeah.
And he drank water. And he lived naturally, and I think we should all strive to do the same thing.
Yes.
So
I thank you so much for sharing your story, because fibromyalgia is a major player for a lot of people.
It is.
I've met people over the years that struggle almost with depression because of the pain being so debilitating and coming and going.
Depression's on my list.
All right. Yes. Is there anything else on your list? Go down your list. I don't want to leave anything out.
My list, I had the bronchitis and antihistamines, decongestants, and the inhaler. I had asthma as well.
Wow.
The C-reactive protein was high, chronic inflammation, leg cramps, plantar fasciitis, cravings, especially I was addicted to Diet Coke, insomnia, depression, hair loss. I was taking the 3 ibuprofen every 4 to 6 hours. Osteopenia is gone.
That's amazing.
My gallbladder doesn't hurt anymore. My gut health is back in check. The chronic constipation is gone too.
Yay, Brad.
From when I was a little girl, I would go once a week, and I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And what I've shared with people, it's like a car in a car wash. The car wash goes in and it comes out. Well, when a meal goes in, a meal needs to come out.
Yes.
So if you have all these cars go in the car wash, they're going to get stuck and backed up, and it's not going to be good.
I love that.
So so we need to make sure that our elimination is part of our health.
It is. It's a critical part of our health.
It's a very critical part.
Because, what I have studied over the years is that it is a critical part of our health, because it's the trash. It's the waste. It's the toxins that your body, because we're fearfully and wonderfully made, has said, we don't want this. Dump it in the trash, just like we do our trash here. Take it out. And when we don't, just like you just said, those cars get stuck in that car wash, and that leads to problems.
And it can cause leaky gut.
Yeah.
It can cause all these host of different things.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to me and to my doctors, inflammation was what the problem was with all that long list of symptoms. I had 2 different diagnoses from 2 different doctors telling me I had fibromyalgia.
Wow.
So I am completely 100% symptom free now.
That is amazing. And, so many people say out there that grains are inflammatory. They're not. Not grains.
Not grains.
The junk
refined flour
is. Yes. That's what I see over and over is people aren't differentiating between real grains and, bread made from real grains and the processed bread that's in the store. They're thinking it's the same, and it's not.
It's completely different.
It's not bloating, real whole grains, freshly milled bread. So I thought that was exciting when you said that your hands didn't swell and you didn't have the inflammation and you didn't have the chronic pain anymore.
No.
And that's just amazing.
It's gone. You get back to nature, to the way God made things, and you're good.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Just eat real food. Just eat real food.
Eat real food.
And
mill your bread, and make sure to get a Butterbell too, because oh my gosh, that thing is awesome.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so glad you found our store. And listeners, if you don't know, it's the Bread Peckers in Woodstock, Georgia.
Yes.
And we have a full kitchen store, and we teach classes. You can join us online. And you've been to a couple of classes, or you didn't?
Just online. So I wanted to go to your sourdough class, but it was sold out, and I found out too late. So maybe next time you do that, I will get to go.
That would be good.
But yes, I have watched your videos online and learned so much. And I love the way you present the science behind. You tell us the why to do it and what the science says, instead of it's just an opinion. And I love that.
I think that's the scientist in me is like, okay, why is this working? How is this working? And when people would share their testimonies with me, it was amazing. I know one of the first was her cholesterol dropped 85 points in a month. And she had been to 3 different doctors, of course, you know, on different medications.
Yes.
None of it worked. She had gallbladder problems and she had diverticulitis. And I was making bread for her. She was an older lady. And she called me, and that's where the "It's the bread" slogan comes from. She called me and said, "It's the bread. It's got to be the bread. This is the only change I've made, and my cholesterol has dropped 85 points in a month."
That wonderful?
And so that kind of started the ball rolling pretty strong for me because I was like, how could the bread do this? And I found everything's there, every nutrient there to help your body.
I loved hearing that.
Break down the fat that we're consuming.
Oh, yes.
So,
I didn't know about the was it 40 out of the 44 nutrients that we need to sustain life was in that whole grain.
Yeah.
And I love that. But it's not when you mill it out.
When it's commercially,
it's commercially done, and they separate the good from the bad, and they give you the bad. Is what they do because it's cheaper.
Yeah,
and people want cheaper, and they want pretty, and all of those things. And so I just think it's great. The books you were sharing, Adele Davis. I actually bought her books, and I've been really enjoying those. And Dr. B, and I know we talked about him, I can't pronounce his name, but he talks about water and natural salt.
Yes.
And getting those minerals in your body.
It's so important.
Yes.
And it's sad what we've done to God's perfect provision.
Yes.
And from things that kind of make sense that they've messed with for food storage, but then something like salt.
Yes.
I'm going to do a whole podcast coming soon on salt because we are the salt of the earth. So it can't be bad.
No.
So
well, I got the Redmond salt, but I also used the Celtic sea salt. And that's where we learned about that with the blood pressure.
Yeah.
And blood pressure came down.
Yeah.
With the Celtic sea salt.
From salt.
Switching from the iodized in the blue can to the Celtic sea salt.
To real unrefined salt. Yeah. That's the key.
And that stuff's moist. It's like sand almost.
Yeah.
And, and it tastes good.
It does. It does. Well, it's exciting to hear your story. And I just thank you again for sharing. I think there's going to be a lot of people encouraged to go back to just finding real food and eating it. And I love it that because that's part of my teaching is you can shop in the regular grocery store except for bread. Except for bread outside of milling your flour and making your own bread. That's pretty impossible, but it's easy.
It's easy to make it. And, like I said, I use a bread machine.
Yeah.
No shame in that.
No, not at all.
It goes.
What works
for you?
While,
I have a lot of kitchen gadgets. They do the work for me so I don't have to. Yeah. And it saves me time.
Yeah.
So
look at the benefits.
Lots of benefits.
Lots of benefits. And your family loves it?
My family loves it. And to make bread with my 2-year-old granddaughter, that was so fun. And she got to take a loaf of bread home.
Oh, how fun.
And she was so excited about that. And I gave her some. I had toast and I had made some pear jam. And so she came back and she wanted a bite and she said, "More, please."
Yes.
And then she came back a little while later and she says, "Grandma, more bread."
Oh, that is so sweet. Isn't that? And it's so gratifying when our little ones now our grandkids love your bread and you know that you're giving them something.
I'm giving them something that sustains life instead of something that is harming them.
Yes. Yes.
And to me, that you've got to do the very best for your family. But you can do it by going to the grocery store, the regular store, just being sensible, reading those labels, educate yourself. There's plenty of information out there. You have a wealth of information on your website and your YouTube channel. It's phenomenal what's on there and what you've been able to teach and tell people about. But educate yourself, follow people who've been in the business for a long time that haven't changed their positions. Yes. Because some of the doctors, they'll change their positions and share with your doctor too. Yeah. I shared with my doctor because she said, "What are you doing? Because your blood work is better." Oh. And I shared with her what I was doing. And she said, "They don't teach us about nutrition in school."
Right.
They don't teach that. So, and that's very sad.
Yeah.
So share with your doctor. You might educate them too, and your pharmacist.
Hey,
all the people.
and if they are a good doctor, they will listen.
Exactly.
And they'll respect you.
Exactly. And in the meantime, pray for them that God will open their eyes to the truth.
It's funny. We started our business in 1992. I started studying and learning. And like I said, when people share their stories, I'm like, how is this possible? But I've been teaching the same thing since 1992. In fact, the free CD that we give away, which is now kind of obsolete because no one has CD players. We first started out with cassette and then went to CD and now a podcast.
Yes.
But it's the CD that we give away for free was recorded in 1993, I think.
Wow.
But
it's still perfect.
Other than more information that I learn and more and more and more, it just confirms what God showed me so many years ago. And then I'll hear testimonies like yours, and it excites me even more. And I sometimes laugh and ask people, what healthy eating, living thing have you done, change in your life? Have you done or implemented that you are still doing today? And most people can't say that. And I'm like, I'm still at it 30 years later. And not only am I still doing it, I'm still excited about it. Why? Because it's delicious.
Yes.
And it changed my life, my health. And it is nutritious.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's like the things that were tools to help me get my health back. I will not give those up.
No.
I will give up nails and bags and, shopping, all those things, but I will not give up the things that help me get my health back.
What a blessing.
Because that's more important than anything else. Wake up in the morning. I will be 62 in about a month, and I feel better than I did when I was 35.
Yes. That's amazing.
And
that's a testimony.
Yes.
And we want a testimony.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for sharing your story and being willing to give up your time and your day to come. And I just know that it's going to be an encouragement to others because people are struggling. And the scripture tells us to always be prepared to give an answer to someone when they ask about the hope that is in us.
Yes.
And that brings hope to others.
Yes.
And your testimony helps others know if it worked for her, it could possibly work for me. Yeah. And that's exciting. Yeah. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Sue's Healthy Minutes. I hope you're encouraged and have found hope for what may be troubling you physically.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Breadbeckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.